Hey everybody, happy Sunday. I know I usually start with like a bright, loud musical intro, but I figured it would be like even more interesting because it was just very spontaneous. Chad hit me up and he says, "Hey, have you seen this video yet?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "We should react to it." And I was like, "Okay, we could do it late, like tomorrow or right now." And he's like, "Now." So what's up, Chad? How you doing?
Yeah, dude, this is insane. I'm not even gonna say anything on it, but it's just exactly what Chief Mitigo was saying, right? And this is from a different tribe. I don't think that this Navajo historian guy, I don't think that he is connected to the church in any way, shape, or form. But I
Yeah,
was
just
just completely mind blown when I saw this, right? So different tribe, same thing with the sweat lodges, with the endowment.
Yeah. So here, let's I'll pull open the video and like who knows like if they're cool with us doing a reaction. So we'll see how it goes. But we'll try. Let me make sure I've got the music or the sound properly too. Hold on. Okay. Cool. All right, and we'll see how this plays out. I'll just start, yeah? From the
Yeah.
beginning. Okay.
Over our minds to shut out our memory as air beings before we were
Start over.
into this world.
What do you say? What do you say, Chad?
Yeah, just start over from the beginning. Left out something important. So I get 0 seconds.
Okay.
But there's this covering over our minds to shut out our memory as air beings before we were allowed to come into this world. Tika penkas tahuil na tole sishe ya tikat. Le intaharago.
Do I need subtitles for that or?
I'm not sure. It's about like a minute or two that he starts going more into this stuff. So
Okay.
not exactly sure all the points.
Huandaten par hanenegi. Hanedo hayubedadit ote edaten par. Le sita askeda tikat ta pa hanne otikat. They begin the net and lenegi do neke. Condin na sama kao tikat. Kehwit enegi. Eshigi bechahan par.
Well, I don't speak Navajo. Let's skip to the
Todo
video.
hijo en na yeti ho ya hadi kat a she ya hadi.
Is there
Speaking English in here?
it comes in here? Okay.
Ako ya katte. Kaishan te hota ne gibe pa hojelne. Whenever a ceremony is conducted in a hogan, there's a door covering. And that covering can be a blanket, a rug, or a skin, just like we do with the sweat lodge. And the teachings in that, there is so much information in that associated with that blanket over the doorway.
Okay, whoa. All right. I'm already need a second.
It's the veil at the temple, right? Like this isn't even like the biggest thing. It's just like
Yeah, but
saying,
like
yeah,
wait. Like think about it, bro. Because like you've got blood over the doorway for the firstborn using the lamb skin, like the lamb, and you have the lamb hide and everything. Here you've got something actually made from the wool, and it's not just the cool. Because we're always thinking, wow, Navajo blankets are so colorful. And what's the first thing he says? It's all about the patterns. And what are the patterns for? Everything. That's just
yeah, and he's saying like at the beginning he's talking about the covering over our mind, this covering over the doorway into doing the ceremony.
like some weird veil or something.
Yeah, it's the veil, like this covering over our mind. He says that we were these sky people before, right? Before we were born, and then we came down here, and when we were born, we have this covering over our mind, and that the covering over the door in the ceremonies represents it. But it gets better. Just keep going.
All right. This is pretty sweet.
And when you want to enter a ceremony, you stand outside and you say, Yaisha. That means, may I enter?
And wait, you say Yaeshwa? Like
Yaisha.
Yaesha?
That means, may I enter? And somebody, generally the medicine man that's conducting the ceremony, will ask, which is to say, who are you? And if you have a ceremonial name, that's the name you give.
If you have a ceremonial name, come on, bro.
He gets more into it, right? So he's saying that this is with their medicine lodges. That's what he's talking about. He's also talking about their sweat lodges, which is what Chief Mitiga, he said it has the same signs and tokens as the endowment and everything, right? So he explains how they get their new names and everything later and what it represents.
Okay. So, well, I mean, like, just trying to pretend to be more cynical. Like, I can imagine how multiple cultures might also have ceremonial names. Let's see how many more coincidences we can find.
Yeah.
Or you can say, I am so-and-so's son, which would be the mother or the father. And then they may let you in.
Okay,
But it
pause
wasn't
that.
a pass.
Pause that right there.
Like.
Okay, so there's two pass codes, and one of them's your new name. The other one,
Tied to your lineage somehow. Strange,
yeah.
right? Like, what's that all
Mhm.
about? Like, what tribe are you part of? All right. I'll give it. We'll see the next part.
When you were asked, who are you? If you did not have a name in that, then you would give who you were descendant of. And that would be
if you don't have, okay,
who's,
because that's a thing.
you would be recognized as when you go into the ceremony. But there were times also when ceremonies were being conducted, there was only the relatives in that of the patient. If you were related to them in some way, then they would allow you to enter. But if you were not related, then sometimes they would not let you in, because
Okay.
it would be a clan family ceremony. And so all of that is disregarded nowadays, but that is the way that it used to be.
I mean, like, that's also true just for, like, in terms of the Jewish traditions of which tribe, if the Cohens do this or the Levi do that, like, if each one was more separated originally. So that's also really interesting.
But if you look at the table down there, or the floor they're on, that's that same 8-pointed star that Chief Mitigo was talking about, which is also, it's 2 stars of David, and it's the seal of Melchizedek.
Okay, let's get a little close up of that real quick. Yeah. And it's also the square, right? Like, so it's even more clear about what it's trying to be. It's not even like veiled. It's
but the
out there.
Purpose of that.
Hold on, let me look at it one more time. That's amazing, because like all of the parts that are connected together are also persons, right? Like angels or luminaries, like they're gods and mother energy.
There's a lot of teachings in that associated with that, and that is that in our lives we do not have the opportunity to see the holy people. Our minds are covered with some kind of a covering or a blanket, and we can't see them. And it is that they are there. But one day, when we end our existence here on the surface of Mother Earth,
I just recognized that he's a Marine too. So like that's just another level of based.
We will have the opportunity to journey into the next world. And what we are told is that you will be asked by the holy people, who are you? And before they will allow you to go past that covering, and you tell them who you are. In some cases, they want to have some kind of accounting of your life, how you lived up to that sacred name that you were given.
Dude, really? I mean, okay. So, you'd think that would be like, that makes perfect sense. But like, even beyond that, like the way it's worked together, that you're like going to the next world, like a starseed kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so he's literally describing that this veil, this covering in front of their doors at their sweat lodges, which is what Chief Mitiga says is exactly like the temple with the rooms or their other ceremonies. It represents that when they die and pass into the next world, there will be this covering, and they will be presented between these holy people, right? And that the holy people will ask them what their ceremonial name is and have them give accounting of their lives. In other words, if they've been true and faithful, they'll be able to pass through to the other side.
Right. Yeah, kind of like the feathers and the weights in the Egyptian court. Apparently, we have a Navajo here. S. Lee says, and probably a Navajo who seems to be even better at Navajo. They say his Navajo is broken. Their story and our story are covered by a veil. Okay, that's pretty based. Us Navajo have 4 clans. All right, well, we'd love to hear more about that. Translated to Janus, Yazus. If you're in the Tartary Nova Discord, let us know. I'd love to hear from you. Love to hear what you're talking about. I'd like to learn more about this. This is my first, I'm reacting to this seeing this for the first time. Chad's seen this before, so he's a little deeper in it.
And so it is that there are teachings in that is to know who you are. Is the question, who are you? And you have to say who you are and tell who you are, and the way that you lived your life, and the things that you were able to do, and the things that you were able to accomplish. The holy people want to know. They don't want you to just waste your life and have accomplished nothing, because it is that this world is full of opportunities, and the opportunities are there for you to take advantage of.
All right, like it's also pretty specific, right? Because you have to think about how some people might say, okay, every religion is the same. Well, a lot of religions are like, you got to be forgiven, and you don't have to worry about it. And it's not so much about, this is very specific. You have to take advantage of these opportunities. This is like pretty much exactly the same.
That you were sent into this world for a reason, and that after this world, before you regain your memories, you will be judged according to your works.
Yeah, like it's really not as common of an ideology as you'd think it is. It's not everybody's vibe.
And when you take advantage of the opportunities that are made available by the holy people in your life, you do them. And that's the way you make your life. And so that's what the holy people want to know. But there's this covering over our minds also to shut out our memory of the time when we were existing as beings in the second world, as air beings. And before we were allowed to come into this world by being born into this world. And the
already formed intelligences, that's part of Navajo lore? Really? That's part of okay. Either someone got to him and or this is legit. I don't know what else to believe. This just seems too legit to quit.
By being born into this world. And the teaching of Kenichi is another teaching associated with that covering on the door. And that is that everything that is allowed to come into this world is born or experiences birth. And that's how we come into this existence. And then we are told that there are other things in that even the Mother Earth was given birth. Even Father Sky was given birth. All things experience some type of birth process. And they were brought into existence here for us in the third world. Now, there are so many people that...
In the third world, as I said?
Yeah, he's going to basically say it's the third dimension. That's what he thinks it is. Like, so the physical world, that's what the third world is, right?
Right.
And it's even more because he's talking about everything being born spiritually world before it was born physically, right?
Yeah, you've got like primordial God intelligences. You've got the spiritual that is then before matter. So like, is that like kind of the idea, like the three levels like that?
Yeah. I think so.
I mean, yeah, right.
Have the confusion that we are in the fourth world. We are not in the fourth world. And that's something that's very important to understand. Everything in our environment is three-dimensional. And it is the yellow world. It is the yellow corn pollen path existence. And the yellow is said to be the sun, or it is that all pollen of all life forms, it takes on the color of yellow, just like the corn pollen. And so it is that this is the yellow world. Everything that we do in this world is based on the sacred number 4. So we understand that we are to prepare to live in the next world, which is the fourth world. And I think a lot of our old people even have forgotten that the traditional teaching is that this is the third world. Everything we do is in preparation for existence in the fourth world. After the fourth world, there are other things that we have to learn and experience. And so it is that everything in this life is based on a sacred number 4.
So that's kind of interesting right there. Like, what do you think about that? Like, this isn't even the second world or the last world or, the first world.
Well, what does, without going too in depth, what does Satan say to Adam when he first wakes up? This world is just like the world we lived on together, right?
Yeah.
And then when God saw the intelligences that were before him, there were many great and noble ones. How can an intelligence be great and noble if it didn't do anything before this?
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. Again, like I don't think people understand necessarily how unique it is to think of like primordial intelligences. Like it even to me is like a bizarre concept, right? Because you're not thinking of just space foam and algae evolving. It's something that's already articulated and it's been through it, right? So this is kind of it is really unique that this would be their perspective. I can't even believe how similar it is.
Yeah, it's also interesting because in another video, so he talks about the holy people that we see on the other side of the covering, that we can't see them. They're around us. They're who's guiding him. They are the parents of our spirits, he says in another video, right?
Oh
I don't
wow.
have like a timestamp of that, but
Dude, I mean, it's interesting because you have to wonder like how much of this is lost in modern Christianity, how much of this is lost because of the Deuteronomists, and like how much of this is like still inherently known because you look at around the world and this is picked up on by different tribes. So it's interesting because we talk about like the keys and like how the keys are restored, but how much of this is also like different pieces of it were all together.
exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you see a lot of the same ideas, like in the Gnostic Gospels, talking about God your father and wisdom your mother, right? Um, and not all the Gnostic Gospels. A lot of people think of the Gnostics. They think of, oh, God is an evil creator who trapped us in this world. There was like a lot of different sects that were called Gnostic. It was literally just anything that Orthodox Christianity rejected in general. Anything that centered around hidden knowledge or gnosis was considered Gnostic. So there was a bunch of different groups that did not agree with each other. There's this one group called the Mandeans, I believe they're called, that they trace their lineage to John the Baptist. They see Jesus as like a failed Messiah. It's interesting though, like so they don't come out of the mainstream Jews. They were their own sect. And you know, a lot of their sort of Gnostic beliefs are kind of anti-Christian. But looking at some of their beliefs, it's like these are the people that the original Christians came from. Because we know from like Dave Butler and Margaret Barker's work that the first Christians were these groups that believed the Jews of the time were apostate. And that's sort of a window into some of their beliefs. And want to know what else? The Mandeans, if you look at their clothes, it's the same as our temple robes. It's exactly the same,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Right. And they do have,
And they have the same symbol too. They have like a 8-pointed star thing that they use that's related. They're pretty interesting. The Mandeans are
yeah,
really interesting. I would say the idea they're not really saying that this is like the distinction I'd make. They're not saying that it's a failed Jesus. It's more that like the sacrifice, the sacrifice of Jesus wasn't the thing. Baptism was already the thing, and so
right,
it's not that God gave us the death of Christ. It's that we murdered this life that God gives you the living Christ.
right,
And if we're supposed to
right.
have
Like,
this, imagine if Christ didn't die, you'd have a rabbi who wrote down
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and it would probably be better. And maybe that on that level, I think the Mandeans are probably right. It would have been cool to have Christ old aged.
But when you look at these things, like even just on the eastern half of the world, not even in the new world, we see like that like a lot of people like in my comment section arguing will say like, oh, this is the church history, this is plain. But then when you look at there were all these sects before the Orthodox Christian Church, before
Right.
the Great Schism and all this stuff, all these other groups, and a lot of them ended up getting killed by each other, right? And then
Totally.
we look in the Nag Hammadi library and all this stuff, and it has all these same beliefs about the veil and passing through it. And then you have Navajos and the Ojibwe, and they have those same beliefs. And a lot of people in the Ojibwe community are saying, we know we're Israelites. We know we're the lost tribes. There's another clip, so I could find it like maybe if you want to look at it from in the middle of a quick media video. I actually know the timestamp, and we can look after this, where Wayne May was actually called by another chief of the Ojibwe saying, I know I'm from Israel. I can help you translate the Michigan tablets, the languages you don't understand. I understand it. You're on the right path.
Dang. I mean, there's a lot to this. I gotta say, like, there's the more you see these different connections, the more clear it is that there's actually like something that's going on. That's like a material. It's a
Yeah.
material mechanism. There's a technology
Yeah.
to.
And all these connections, they always go back to 600 BC when the temple fell, right? The Ojibwe are saying that one of the groups that are part of their ancestors fled the Great Lodge destruction around 600 BC. We have the Deuteronomists at 600.
Even like thinking about the Gnostic like picture, like Yaldabaoth, the big serpent lion thing. I mean, and seraphs, like the picture we've been seeing. Compare that to some of like the Native American Lakota and Navajo and Hopi artwork, and like the characters. Yeah, like these characters.
Like you
very
literally have
specifically.
Quetzalcoatl, this god, this great white god, who his enemy is his brother, and then he's literally crucified with nails through his hand, and a symbol of him is this great serpent with wings, right? Like,
who could that remind you of, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty specific. I don't know. It's pretty wild. Pretty wild. Did I just accidentally wait? Where did my window go? No.
Yeah, but trust me, it gets better in the Navajo video. It does. Like you haven't seen it all yet.
I got to get back to it. I accidentally closed that spot. Hold on, we'll get back to it. Okay. How far were we? Like,
it was around this part.
How you lived up to that sacred name that you were sure to take advantage of, and
it was right around here.
There's another teaching associated with that covering on the door. And that is that everything that is allowed to come into this world is born or experiences birth. And that's how we come into this existence. And then we are told that there are other things in that even the Mother Earth was given birth. Even Father Sky was given birth. All things experience some type of birth process. And they were brought into existence here for us in the third world. Now, there are so many people that have the confusion that we are in the fourth world. We are not in the fourth world. And that's something that's very,
Right, we got past that. It's like up here, probably.
Covering.
No, go back a little more. Okay, so go to like at least 730.
Okay.
Important to know that the guest here. Bad is what they call it. And the teaching is very important to understand that there is a reason why the ceremonial Hogan has that blanket over the entryway. Bad, which is that our minds are covered so we can't see the holy people. But one day when we expire from this life, we will encounter that covering, and we have to give our name and to tell who we are. When they ask us, and so the ceremonial name that you give or are given is something that you don't share with other people, only in a ceremonial setting. And it is that your wife may know your ceremonial name. And it is that it's important to have that ceremonial name and never be able to divulge that to anybody. I received a ceremonial name, and it's always the first part of it I can share with you. It's hashke, and then they have the second part of it is what's important. But hashke would probably means somebody that would scold somebody.
So he's not going to tell you the second part of his name. It's a secret.
Yeah. So it's a ceremonial name that when they are presented before the covering between the two worlds, where they will meet the holy people, they have to give this as sort of a password, and they can know their spouse's name, right? They'll need to know their spouse's name, but they don't share it outside of the ceremonies, and it's going to be the key when they visit the other side.
This is for the Navajo, right? Specifically?
Yeah. This isn't a Mormon thing. This is a Navajo.
Well, I mean, it is, but it's all, it is also
it would be something that
that's because they're the lost tribe of Israel, right? Because that guy who I can try and find that.
It's
video
just
right
like
now.
weirdly specific. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's pretty specific. It's hard to.
Yeah. Can you pull up Quick Media's channel real quick?
Yeah.
I know the timestamp for the video.
Second.
So it'll be at it was like some Book of Mormon Heartland thing with Wayne May, and it'll be at 2740 in the video. It should be one of his latest videos.
Videos. Archaeological evidence for the Hopewell Mound with Wayne May, the most recent.
2740.
Yeah. 2740. Yeah, this is also, by the way, I recommend this video. Awesome stuff. Where do we 2740? Greg's quick channel is pretty good.
Yeah.
November 14th, right before Thanksgiving. I'm in my office right here. Phone rings. I pick it up. The guy introduces himself. It's Brian Utanen of the Serpent Mound Reservation up in Toronto, California, Canada. He says, Wayne, he says, I want to help you. I said, well, wonderful. What do you want to do? He says, you're on the right track. He said, we know our language here in Toronto, and we are Ojibwa, and we know we are House of Israel, and our language is Coptic based.
Bro.
He said,
Like, it's exactly like what Chief Midiga was saying.
Yeah. All right.
Based. He said, I can read some of the Michigan tablets.
It is based.
Now, I got to tell you, I've been doing this since 1988. I about passed out when he told me this. I mean, this is Christmas. Okay, for me, this is Christmas. And I was very excited. So right now, I'm in touch with him. He's the chief epigrapher for the Ojibwa Nation, the guy sharp as a tack. He translates Ojibwa treaties that the Vatican had brought over from the Jesuits in the 1600s.
That just came up the other night. Yeah, they're never going to live that down.
He translates for the Vatican. He translates for the Canadian government because they got treaty problems up there with the natives on, where the land was, how it was bought and misused and all that kind of thing. So, I mean, he's really into the mix. And right now he's putting a book together on all this, his language and how it works together. And eventually I'll get an article from him on the Copts and we'll put it in Land of Promise. And that's what I'm waiting for. So
about the Coptics. Wow. Wayne May is like a Randall Carlson for the Mormons. It's pretty sweet.
I actually met Wayne May a couple months ago. I think I mentioned this. This Book of Mormon I have right here, I got it from Wayne May.
Oh, that's right. So, yeah, we got to get Wayne on the show. Obviously, this is like we're getting to the point where he's going to have to do like several hours of just like all of his research. That's nuts.
Yeah, but like that's the endowment. Like,
yeah,
we just very
that's
simple.
Pretty much exactly the same. Yeah,
that we are these spiritual beings from another world who we've existed from eternity to eternity, and we're born into this physical world, this 3D world. Like Alex Jones is saying, the devil is this being cast out with no body who's trying to get up into the physical world because it's the gateway towards higher dimensions and becoming like God, right? So we're in the 3D world to progress, to become like our parents, the holy people. We were these sky beings before, and there's this covering over our mind. And the covering over the doorway of the lodges represents that same covering. And in the ceremonies, and when we pass through into the other world, we'll have to give our new ceremonial name that only our spouse can know is to pass through there. And it's a key word.
I mean, yeah, having a secret name is even pretty unique, right? Like, I don't understand how. I'd love to have someone try to come up with the explanation. Like, oh, there's an excuse. Native Americans have a really weirdly secretive culture, and they think God's
Joseph
name
Smith
is secret
stole it
for
from the
another
Native
reason.
Americans.
Oh, that must be
the
it.
Freemasons stole it from the Native Americans, and Joseph Smith stole it from the Freemasons.
But again, like that always just makes it that much like that. Again, if Joseph Smith isn't just some like kid, if he's somebody who like was that deeply researched, it's even weirder. So it doesn't make it a better excuse. If Joseph Smith was just studying and spoke Coptic and Navajo and everything, then there's a lot more going on that I need to know about. Like that doesn't answer.
Yeah, people go back and forth between Joseph Smith being the biggest buffoon in the world, where it's like, oh, he said that Jesus would be born at Jerusalem instead of Bethlehem, and it's like 8 miles away or something. And
Technicality, people bug me on that.
Right?
Yeah.
So he's so stupid for not knowing that, and then it's like, oh, actually, he knew all about Asherah and the Deuteronomists 200 years before everyone else, and he knew Coptic Hebrew. And he knew Navajo
like
and he knew all this stuff, and it was all a conspiracy so he could marry a bunch of women or something. That's the whole reason.
A bunch of like 60-year-old women that can't have kids. It's a pretty good conspiracy. It's a pretty good conspiracy theory.
Like that's the whole thing, right? But it makes me kind of scared a little bit. For see all these ex-Mormon like channels and stuff like mocking our endowment, revealing the signs and tokens stuff, and we're warned if we reveal our stuff, it's gonna be bad for us.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of scary, man, because what is the thing you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. My new thing is to rebrand ex-Mormon. That's all. Like, basically you go online and you see X and it means former. So what we need to do is time travel. X means future Mormon. And that way we just take back the hashtag, bro. We just invert the whole thing, right? That's the plan. We're gonna win.
But it's crazy because we're seeing all this stuff and it's real. Like when you look, and I think that's why culturally the church needs to change, right? Like on the culture, it's like sort of Protestant-esque, kind of stuffy and corporate, and it's kind of weird, and like there's something about polygamy or something. No one's really gonna take it seriously. But then when you look at the lore, you look at all the conspiracy theories, like I see online before I believe this stuff, all this stuff about, oh yeah, there were ancient Israelites in America. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And Alex Jones talking about interdimensional.
It's basically like if you're like Alex Jones doesn't know he's a Mormon. Like that's what blows my mind, right? Like
yeah, like he believes all the same stuff as us.
Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty wild. Do I go to let's go back to the Navajo video, or is there any more of the quick video? Is that
we could watch more of the quick video, but I think that was just it, all of the Navajo video. They have a bunch of like videos like that. I only saw a couple, so you could just like plug their channel real quick.
Yeah, let's plug their channel. And like we don't have to do like a super long video. This could be a short one, but I'm gonna subscribe to his channel, Navajo Traditional Teachings, at 346,000 subscribers, so they're doing all right. But yeah, definitely, hopefully they're okay with the fact that we react to their video. Hopefully you guys all got to see that. And if they take monetization, I'm all right with that, because I just want them to be able to get the word out here. This is like pretty important stuff. Make sure you subscribe to Navajo Traditional Teachings. And also, check out Quick, because Greg's channel is pretty cool. Greg's a cool guy.
Also, you can't pull something up from your phone, can you?
Not easily. What do you need?
There's all these pictures I was going to show of like, so there's these old photos of ancient like robes that Jesus and the disciples are in, and they have like the square and compass on them and stuff. And
if you have, you could probably like, if I send you the StreamYard link, you could broadcast from your phone probably. Or if you send the pictures through Instagram, if you go through Instagram, I could do it.
I'll send through Instagram. Hopefully it doesn't disconnect from the live, because it's done that sometimes.
I made a cool new meme earlier today. Did you see my new meme? Hold on, let me find it. Here it is. And then in a grove, I found them, the golden dank memes.
Oh, I saw that.
All right, let me check real quick here in the Instagram. Pulling up the picture.
I just sent 5 photos.
Sweet. Oh no, unsupported. Use the mobile app. Meta. What a terrible company. All right, let me see what I can do about that. There must be a way. Dance for them for a second while I download these pictures from the mannequins that you pulled up.
Yeah, so it's really interesting that all this stuff is going on right now. So we've got that video being posted by that Navajo guy. And then we have Chief Mitiga. He's saying, essentially, just looking at a few of his videos in the live he did with us, that right now, like, there have been all these ancient prophecies that the Native Americans have been given to generations, and that they've been visited by the 3 Nephites and stuff like that, that there would be a time when they need to gather together. So he's getting in contact with all these lodges from like different tribes, because they were all one. That's basically what his claim is it's not Heartland versus Mesoamerica. There were multiple migrations that all formed one people, right? When the great peacemaker, Jesus Christ, came, all the races got mixed together, and all these people are going to come back together. That's what he's trying to do right now, and maybe like rebuild a lodge or something like that. It's really interesting. But then you have in Doctrine and Covenants talking about in the last days, the lost tribes coming forth from the northern countries, right? So, and then we also have like those ideas, like, because some people are kind of sketched out by the Mentiva archives. I think there's some interesting stuff in it, but like this other claim that like John the Beloved is with the lost tribes and that there's more scriptures and all this stuff, and it's all happening at the same time and focusing around these sweat lodge temples. But those are the pictures I sent. So in this
have you done a sweat lodge yet in your life?
No.
Bro, we're gonna go sometime. New Mexico, I know a pretty good spot. Actually, no,
I want to get initiated into like the Ojibwe sweat lodges and like get a new Ojibwe name. That's what I want to learn their ways and like journey there and like gather the tribes of Israel. That'd be awesome. But
yeah,
so that's like the Byzantine.
Sorry,
so that Byzantine veil. We see the square symbols, right? And if you could go to the one.
Oh man, and they're freaking right angles too.
Yeah,
that's
right. So go to the one of the men in the robes, like Jesus in the robes.
All right. Yeah.
So we have that same rope going over one side of the.
Are you kidding me? What?
Right. So those symbols are clearly connected. The symbol on their garments.
That is
wild. The symbol on the veil. Now I
never thought I would take such a W for an L, but this is all right. Sorry. Keep going.
Yeah. Well, my theory is that the square is the masculine power and the compass is the feminine. Right? Like what they were saying about with the feather and the sides of the feather balancing things out. The square kind of straightens things. It's sort of this firm thing. And you see in the 3000 BC of the creation story, which matches up with the endowment, with the first man and woman helping create the earth, you see the man holding the square. So that's sort of like that masculine power. And then the compass, that measuring instrument, is sort of like the wisdom, the sort of guiding force.
Wow.
Right. So then that's why we see the square so much on like these less Gnostic early churches that maybe rejected a lot of the more feminine aspects. Right. So we see the double square. And then again, we see in this, the same square symbol. It's on the curtains of the veil. And then we have the hand of God coming from behind the veil in this sacrifice altar. So it's like he's accepting the sacrifice. And you have Melchizedek there and these other sort of Christ figures like Abel, and there's Abel with the lamb, and there's Isaac and Abraham, right? And if you look closely at the seal of Melchizedek on here, it's kind of blurry. It is a bunch of interlocked square symbols.
Where is that at? Is that in
the center of actually look for Melchizedek mosaic because it's kind of blurry.
Okay.
It's just one I had saved.
Let me pop in for a second. Melchizedek mosaic images. This one looks pretty good, I think. Hold on. This one here somewhere.
Yeah, that's the same photo, right? Less blurry. So you can see it clearly. There's those same right angles all over on the curtains of the veil, just like in the Byzantine veil, the same right angles that were on their garments. And if you zoom in on that little Melchizedek star down there, right, the same 8-pointed star that the Ojibwe have as their symbol, you can see that it's made up of interlocking right angles.
Wow. Yeah.
So almost like a sort of prayer circle thing, if you might imagine.
That is really interesting. I mean, also, like I kind of think of like the Baha'i, isn't the Baha'i flag, Baha'i star? Don't they use? I feel like the Baha'i use a 8-pointed star. Yeah, they have. It's not quite the same star, but they do have an 8-pointed star as their main symbol, which is interesting. So they're using the Melchizedek seal as well. That's
exactly. It's the same thing. And that the right square angles and the 8-pointed star, it all seems to be connected to sort of the things that the Deuteronomist removed, that passing through the veil, that seeing the face of God, that deification, that pre-existent spirits, that we are the incarnations of divine beings. Right? So we go throughout history and we see this pattern. it's really interesting because something I actually learned yesterday on, I think it was the Language of Adam Discord, is that it was from a journal entry of something, so it's not a direct quote from Joseph Smith. He said that before Adam lived on the earth, but after the earth was created by Michael and Jehovah, that there had been 2 other cycles of people to prepare it of some sort. So the earth's older than we know. There were other civilizations on it before Adam that were wiped out.
Apparently 3, it sounds like, from the Navajo,
Yeah. So,
but also that's scientific, right? That's scientific. The 5 major extinctions and everything else, right? Like everyone agrees.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we don't really know. So these mysteries, it's all leading to the same place. And if you can look past the sort of stuffy corporate Mormonism, you'll realize, oh, that was real. There were lost tribes of Israel in America. Where were these interdimensional beings incarnated? Like, we don't remember, but you watching this now, you've existed from eternity.
I think it's a lot easier for people if they kind of imagine Mormonism is boring, because like once you get into it and you realize it's like Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you're like, look away, the Ark of the Covenant. Well, yeah, you have to be kind of careful.
Yeah. So, do you have any more thoughts on this, or?
I mean, it's pretty amazing. I want to continue to dig into the native traditions as much as possible. I want to also look into, I've been to a few sweat lodges, and I remember during the interview we did with Minigua, it's pretty similar to what he said. Like, you remember your breath. You remember the first time you breathe because you feel like you're going to die, you know? But there's also an interesting thing, which is like, you don't break the line. Like, you don't walk around the thing. You don't walk through there's like an energy line that they have. And so there's a few things also in terms of like the magic square, or the way that we, keep the energy in the way we keep a building or the way we keep a temple, that are similar in the designs of how they keep a sweat lodge, like how they, even in a nomadic circumstance. So that plus I want to look into the tabernacle more, because the idea of after the first temple and not having the temple, very similarly, you've got this like nomadic tribe of being forced to use tent pole, tabernacle, like tents, right? So there's a huge tie to this, and there's no way out of it. I'd also like to know if there's anything about like reincarnation, because ancient Jews were into the idea of the 613 laws, 613 parts of the soul, 613 parts of the body. So I wonder if that any of that makes its way into Native American traditions and things like that. If we could find anything kind of tying the numerology together, because numerology is so freaking important to the Jewish whole thing, that would also be like, that would be like a nail in the coffin for me. I'd be like, okay, like if any of the numbers sync up, then we're done. And I already kind of feel like it is, because I've been to a lot of places and seen a lot of cultures, and very few of them have the idea of primordial star seed energy intelligences that go through a veil and then are going off to the fourth world. It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's real. Like it's like the One Piece is real meme, the Book of Mormon's real, right?
This is getting to the point where we're going to need to do like an iceberg thing, like an iceberg. It's getting there.
We should do a whole video on like the Book of Mormon conspiracy iceberg.
Yeah, pretty much. We're at that point. You know that like hippopotamus means water horse, right? So there's more anachronisms in like Roman literature than there is in the Book of Mormon. It's a fun one.
Also, Chief Mitiga says they had horses. I believe it.
Oh yeah,
right.
From originally, no, horses started out in. I think it's horses and camels started out in North America when extinction across the land bridge.
Yeah, like people think it's across the land bridge. Like Chief Mitiga, the thing was like they're telling them like, oh, you didn't have horses, you didn't have tools, but we're finding tools. They're saying we had horses the whole time. There's specific breeds of horses that have like weird like curly hair that they don't find anywhere else, and it's only found on this continent. Right? Dude. The idea that they didn't have horses was a Spanish thing, right? Because the idea with the Spanish was like, if you have horses, you have power, and they want to dehumanize the natives and say that they were just these savages. So they removed the idea of them having horses.
New World monkeys. You know about the New World monkey? Like, here's my favorite conspiracy theories. Like, this is a scientific belief. Scientists believe New World monkeys, because there's Old World monkeys and New World monkeys. How did the monkeys get across the sea? they literally believe that these monkeys like traveled by like raft somehow without humans. Seriously, this is the goal of they're like, it must have been that a bunch of monkeys just got onto some floating pieces of wood and floated from Africa or Spain, all the way to the Western Hemisphere and populated and many monkeys, because there's all these different species of New World monkey, right?
Yeah,
As
exactly.
Like what? Obviously,
like literally, like the idea that the Native Americans did not have swords, did not have armor, because it's in the museum. It's in Ohio. I'm in Ohio right now at the Hopewell Museum. There are swords, there are weapons, but they didn't have. They were ceremonial. Who makes a ceremonial sword, right?
Why?
But they don't make like real ones. But like they're like just using, like, sticks to each other, right? And they were just like for like thousands of years, they were just not progressing at all. They just had sticks that they were beating each other with and stone arrows. That's all they had, right?
Fast Eddie says tsunami makes that possible. I'd love to see it. I want to see a tsunami with 30,000 types of monkeys all surfing on plywood for 1,000, 2,000, 4,000 miles. Like, I really want to see it. I just feel like the idea of there being that many kinds of monkeys kind of... there's a lot of more evidence of corn in Scotland or different kinds of grain in and pumpkins from the Andes that are found in Africa. There's a lot of evidence to trade. It's a really weird kind of Eurocentric idea that Europeans invented the triangular trade network and that the Berbers and the Moors didn't already have trade networks. It's weird. We're like, oh yeah, everything started recently.
Yeah, and all those, literally all the narratives, like, there's no evidence that the Native Americans did not have horses. It's simply they claim we brought over the horse. That's the evidence that they're like, no.
And I believe that too. I believe that we brought over horses with us too.
Yeah, 100%.
Sure, there's ponies, Mongolian style ponies. We decided, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I forget what it's called, but there's literally this curly-haired type of horse that's only found on this continent. Genetically, it's different from other horses. It's only found. Well, where did it come from? And they literally found it in the wild. It wasn't like a domesticated thing.
Oh man, it has like cool looking, like it. I want this.
And they found this thing out in the wild in droves. And what they thought was like, oh, these horses must have, escaped the Spanish and naturally evolved to have this weird curly hair and this and that. And it's like, it's so stupid. It's such a stupid excuse. It's just
unrelated to the Iberian. It derives from the American horse of Iberian origin, but it is unrelated to the Asian horse. Okay, that is really interesting. Okay, yeah. I mean, something to look into.
There's all these things that they can't explain because their narrative. Smithsonian's narrative is crap. Oh, this artifact found in Ohio that has Hebrew writing on it. And we found it on a controlled Smithsonian dig. That's the Bat Creek Stone. Actually, what happened was some other guy dug it up first, put fake Hebrew on it, then put it back in the ground, covered it up for a while, and we just so happened to dig in the same place. It was a real artifact, but the Hebrew was fake.
It says metallurgy. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like S. Lee, you're gonna have to come on and talk to us at some point. Metallurgy ties Navajo as alchemists, metalworkers mixing iron and copper to the horse. Jews, Arabs, Semitic people, very famous metallurgy experts. So the idea that the Navajo would also be metallurgy experts, another corroborative link right there.
Here, look up real quick. Look up Hopewell swords. There's a specific one I want to look for. Hopewell swords. And I'm gonna have you open up another tab to compare pictures. So.
Okay. Is this it?
I think this one's might be from North Dakota, not Ohio. So just search for Hopewell swords in general, because I'm looking for. Actually, that one might do, because it's the handle I'm looking at. So, okay, that picture, not that one. No, I know that picture. So scroll down a little bit. That top one you were gonna go on, I think that'll work because it's got the right handle on it.
This one here?
No, the one you were gonna. That was not that. So those are the axes that swords, right? Then look up ancient Israelite swords. So keep that photo there. Ancient Israelite swords.
Okay, yeah, I got to show you another one after that too, just because of this. Here's an example, maybe.
Look at the handles. So that top one was good. Right?
Yeah,
that's not the best one. Top one. Look at that handle. Yeah. And look at the handle on that.
Right.
right? It's the same handle, and that's a very unique type of sword hilt because the way it was fashioned, I forget, it was like the sword of Joshua or something like that, and it was made in a way where it doesn't have the hilt to protect your hand, but it's faster, and and that's not the best example I've seen, but there were a lot of examples of Hopewell swords that look a lot like old world swords.
This is not the best example, but just looking at the Japanese regalia again, which has the "I am that I am" written in ancient
And it has the seal of Melchizedek.
Yeah, exactly. This is the Japanese emperor's secret stuff, right? And so that it has kind of that. It kind of reminds me of the early. It definitely looks more like a Semitic sword than it looks like a Japanese sword. I mean, I don't know.
100%.
Doesn't look like
it literally has an ancient, because we don't know where all the lost tribes went. They've mixed in with the Gentiles, right?
Right.
Maybe there's some up north in the earth, in the hollow earth. Maybe there's they're in Canada, and that's what up north means. We don't really know, but it's interesting because they legit had swords, and they had armor, and they had horses, and there was a massive civilization, right? Like if you pull up the Menorah Mound. Search for Menorah Mound in Ohio. Right?
Old Hanukkah Mound. Whoa. The Hanukkah
so pull up that
Menorah
picture. So if you look at that
What?
top section right there, that's an oil lamp, right? That's clearly an oil lamp. And then there's a menorah, right? The tree of life, the
Wow.
candlestick, the divine mother, the menorah down there. Want to know what else is there? The compass and square. Look closely.
Whoa.
Yep. So the menorah, the tree of life, the oil lamp, the compass and square, it's all in this site where there was some sort of temple or something, and they don't even know where it was. They recorded this once a while ago. The entire site got destroyed by the government, essentially.
Of course.
Right? Now pull up, search for Old Stone Fort, Tennessee. Right, so that's another mound site, but that's not a picture. There's still a wall. That's what I'm trying to pull up. The wall that's there. There, yeah. So this is from like 300 AD or 300 BC. So go to that picture of the stone wall.
There's this one here. Yeah.
Yeah, that. So that is the remains of some sort of fortress from the times of the Book of Mormon in Tennessee, near where all these Israelite-looking swords are found. A literal stone fortress held together with cement.
Wow.
Right?
What the heck? What the heck? Roman cement? Right.
It's all real. Right? Quetzalcoatl, it's real. The fiery serpent who was crucified. Right? Like that they have that legend, and they have the great peacemaker, and they have the veil, and so things are definitely going to be happening soon, right? The fact that the Ojibwe seem to be very aware that they are from Israel, right? We have Chief Mitiga. We have the other guests that were here with Chief Mitiga. We have that other chief who called up Wayne Ney saying, "We know that we're from Israel. We know we're the lost tribes." I can translate that those Michigan relics. If you want to pull up the Michigan relics, that's been debated. A lot of people say it's fake. But the Ojibwe are saying, no, the Michigan relics are real. These are our tablets. Right? And it has different languages. And one might say this is almost like a Rosetta Stone. It has some Syrian in it. It has some Coptic. It has some cuneiform. It has all this stuff.
Yeah. There's also the the Strangite plates, right?
Yeah.
Which similarly I think are pretty interesting and probably deserve to be looked into more. Somebody tried to do something where they said that they found like a piece of slate that was in the exact same shape as one of the plates or something like that, and they were trying to say they were associated with the machine washing. That was
Old
funny.
World Micmac says, "Am I of the lost tribes?" Yes. Pull up the Micmac. Search for Micmac language next to Book of Mormon manuscript. Micmac Nephite language. I want to show that comparison because Chief Mitiga was also talking about the Micmac language, how they would write in that. No, not that. So on the images, I mean,
Oh, okay.
there are similarities, like the name for
Yeah,
God is the
there's
same,
some
like
pretty brutal, like hallelujah, yeah, etc. There's some stuff there, but let's go to
Yahovah, but look on
Jehovah.
images. So
Okay.
pull that one up on the left. So that's manuscript that was taken from the Book of Mormon. That is the Micmac language, right? And the Ojibwe, the Micmac, the Navajo, they were all one group. That's what Chief Midiga is saying, right?
I mean, come on, this is pretty good. Like, look how close
Right.
those are.
Now look for Micmac Egyptian language, right? You're going to see more similarities next to the Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Wow, this is there's just a lot there. Micmac hieroglyphs. Do I go to the wiki page probably, or to Google Images? Micmac spelled
Images.
different ways. Wait, if I could spell it like this, maybe, or what? Because I spelled it with a K.
I think it'll work.
Micmac.
So, okay.
That was yeah, like that, right?
Yeah.
Micmac hieroglyphs, really, with the pentagrams and every, like, kind of like Reformed Egyptian.
It is Reformed Egyptian.
It looks like exactly like it. All right. This is interesting too, because this kind of the Natel there here. This looks like Om kind of, or not Om, but Ah, the Sanskrit vowel, kind of similar to. What's this? Neusis? I don't know. It doesn't translate. I guess it's translated German.
Yeah, there is one
Under
image
the water
I'm looking for specifically that's like a side by side between Egyptian words that are the same as Micmac, like where they have the translation.
Should I type in? Let me try typing in Egyptian hieroglyphs, maybe.
Yeah, side by side.
Ancient Egyptian language, Micmac, like this, like right here. Only a couple.
Yeah, it was something like that. There was more, but
this is already a good example.
Yeah. Right. So not only does it match up with manuscripts taken from Joseph Smith's, but also lines up with Egyptian. So it's like Reformed Egyptian, one might say. And, it's all coming together. Right?
Yeah.
It's all, no, actually, all the language lining up and the endowment ceremony, Joseph Smith made it all up.
Look at that Micmac symbol.
The 8-pointed star.
I'm into it. I like the Micmac. You guys sound cool. Y'all want to hang out? Let's hang out.
Yeah, they're part of the Lost Tribes.
I'll bring pizza.
Right? And like Chief Midiga was saying, it sounds like there were more migrations, right? That's what it sounds like. And then we have that other Ojibwe guy saying, I know I'm from Israel. I'm from the tribe of Zebulon, right? So at some point, like, I believe that guy. At some point, Zebulon must have come along. Or maybe there was more people that came over with the Mulekites that were from Zebulon. Or maybe more people with Lehi. We don't know. We don't have the full story, right? The Book of Mormon is 1/100th of their history, if even. Right?
I really.
So we.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, we don't even know.
Yeah, exactly. We need to have a computer system that actually can go through and look at all the symbols and to try to differentiate how these symbols changed, because we're looking at obviously like changed symbols over a period of time as well. But there's so many cross references here that it's insane. All these things that sync up with each other.
Yeah, and have you heard about the Egyptian endowment?
I feel like, is that the thing? I saw Greg's quick channel.
Quick media video on it, right?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
They have the endowment too. It's the same thing, right? Like that's likely Joseph Smith got the endowment. He didn't get it from the natives. He likely got it from the Book of Joseph.
He must have been like being chased from a giant like rolling ball through Indiana Jones temple, and somehow like he just lucked out when he met the Horus, or Osiris. He must have had like some pretty great adventure stories. That's the only excuse, only logical explanation, man.
Yeah, Old World Micmac says, I speak Micmac fluently, 100% full blood. Do you know anything about the lodges? That's what we're wondering, right? Because if you have something about the lodges, let us know, right? Like that's what we're looking into right now. It's like, hold on, those
Having said
lodges are
that,
the same as our temples.
and in general, yeah, like if you go to the Tardy Nova Discord and like connect with us, because like I'd like to hear from you on in general all about it. That's crazy. Like to be able to speak Micmac 100%. That's yeah, and you're full blooded, dude. Awesome. Yeah, we definitely want to know about your culture more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you'll probably be there when the three Nephites come to gather Israel before Adam-on-Diamond, when the Archangel
Yeah.
Michael descends.
Do you? I mean, that's the
Like,
other thing. Like,
this
do you
cool
have
stuff's happening.
Do you have like
And
a
your
local?
bloodline's chosen.
Do you have a native version of that? Like, do you guys have the idea that there are like space time traveling starseed energy like visitors that are like 3 of them that are visiting? Because it might not be that they're called Nephi to you or something. I don't know. Like maybe that things have changed, right?
Do you have stories? Because Chief Milia said they did, of 3 beings who are like immortal, maybe that have visited you guys throughout the ages, like messengers or prophets. These 3 persons, right? That they're like immortal or something. They appear like to help you or something like that.
I feel like we're gonna catch on. Where this is like how we're gonna find out, like, because that's the thing. And this is also why I want to find out what your culture calls these things. Because, again, Egyptians changed, the Jewish traditions changed, Christianity. Like, look at it now. So it's important to figure out all of the different perspectives to figure out what the objective origin point is, right? And like how this is universal.
Yep, Glooskap legends and myths.
Dude,
that's what they said. Right, they do have the legends of the 3 visitors, the 3 Nephites. Apparently, let's
legends.
And I think it goes back to a lot of people think of the restoration as a restoration of Christianity, and a lot of Christians will have issues with that idea, like, oh, Christianity existed for like 100 years and fell into apostasy. No, it's a restoration of all things.
Y'all ready for this, dude? All right, the Abenaki. The Abenaki people believe that after Tabeldak created humans, and I guess Tabeldak is this androgynous creator. Whoa, it's all of it. Okay, we'll get into that. But that's some Elohim stuff. The dust from his body created the Glooskap and his twin brother Malsumis. He gave Glooskap the power to create a good world. Malsumis, on the other hand, is the opposite and seeks evil to this day.
So like almost sort of Jesus Satan type stuff.
That's pretty specific. I mean, okay. Glooskap learns that hunters who kill too much would destroy the good world he had sought to create. Frightened at this possibility, Glooskap sought grandmother Woodchuck and asked her for her advice. She plucked all the hairs out of her belly, hence the lack of her hairs on a woodchuck's belly, and wove them into a magical bag. The Glooskap put all the game animals into the river. He then bragged to Grandmother Woodchuck that the humans would never need to hunt again. Grandmother Woodchuck scolded him and told him that they would die without the animals. She said that they would need to hunt to remain strong. Glooskap let the animals go. Later, Glooskap decided to capture the great bird that Talbanak placed on the mountain peak, where it generated bad weather in the flapping of its wings. Glooskap caught the eagle and bound its wings, and the winds ceased. Soon, the air was so hot and heavy that Glooskap could not breathe, so she loosened the bird's wings just enough to generate enough weather so that the humanity could live. I mean, the level of encryption to these stories are going to be different than the ones we're used to. And also what they're about in terms of if you're living in nature all the time and you're relating to birds and the animals that you're around all the time, like it's going to change like what you're focusing on. Like a kid, imagine trying to tell a kid, let's say it's like the Lamanites or the Nephites or something like that, and they're living in the Americas, and like, you know, the kid's like hunting and gathering, and you're like, come over to this, like, let me tell you about the seraph that Moses put up on that pole. And you're like, I don't care, Dad. I want to go, like, tell me something that relates to me. Tell me about the hunting. So I feel like that would also like affect what kind of stories get passed down, right?
Yeah. And we also have to know that, like, a lot of those stories, they were on the plates. So the Seneca tribe, I remember reading about how the Seneca, they were telling some missionaries, or maybe it was James E. Talmage or something, about how their history was written on a metal plates that they lost, and because of that, they don't know the full history, right?
Wow.
And then the people that were talking to them showed the picture of Moroni burying the plates, and then they all freaked out when they saw it. They're like, yeah, that's it, right?
Dude, I'm
So
looking at some of those
we have to,
language things. Yeah, keep going. Sorry.
yeah. So actually, let's just go. So at the top, so Indians of North America, they have a name for the creator, which is Yahweh or Yahweh or Jehovah, Yahweh. And then their name for God, there's El,
Or
right?
Allah, or like
El
Allah.
Elohim.
It's like Elohim or Allah, Ella, like the same because the vowels in Hebrew, right? Like, what are you gonna do with your vowels?
Yeah.
So it's even Arabic, Hebrew, Native American. It's universal. Allah, Ella, yeah, El,
The Hallelujah one, that's interesting.
yeah.
And then the wife, Awa, Uwu, I don't know how to pronounce that.
Ava. I mean, if it was German, that W would be a V. So and back and forth, W and V's, Ava.
Yeah. But yeah, like if what Chief Miniga is saying about like the lodges and three Nephites visiting people, if it's true, then I think stuff's about to go down. I think, you know, the Antichrist is about to rise, the tribes of Israel are gathering, and somehow we're in the middle of it on a podcast.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I'm for it. I want to have anybody who can like verify some of this stuff, right? Like if you are like, hey, that's not how we say hallelujah, or like you're like, yeah, that is how we say hallelujah. Let us know because we're trying to verify the stuff. We want to make sure that we're being accurate. But I mean, this is incredible I pretty much trust that that's accurate, that the chief is saying what he believes his tribe actually believes. I feel like if he's saying that, then the Navajo probably actually believe that. And from several of the commenters in the audience that are saying that there's, oh yeah, totally, relations to this story or that story. Fast Ed talking about S. Lee, snakes seem both good and bad. Yeah, well, snakes are both good and bad. Like snakes are good. Yeah. They're just sharp at one end,
Well, that goes back to what Dave Butler was saying. So in Genesis 1, there's two separate creation accounts between Genesis 1 and 2. In Genesis 1, the Elohim create man and woman in their image. One second, I'm going to sneeze. Right. So in Genesis 1, Elohim creates man and woman in their image. In Genesis 2, Yahweh of the Elohim, so a specific person, creates man and then creates woman after man, right? And so it's very consistent. A lot of people think it's two separate creation accounts. It's Elohim, Elohim, Elohim for Genesis 1, never the Lord. Then Elohim, Yahweh, Elohim, Yahweh, Elohim, Yahweh for Genesis 2. Then the Lord leaves, and the serpent appears, and immediately says Elohim, not Elohim, Yahweh. Did Elohim not say, or whatever, right? So the idea being that the serpent in the garden was impersonating Yahweh. He transforms into this winged serpent, which is what the Lord is. The Lord is this winged serpent, and the deception is that he transformed into it. Now, in a lot of New Testament Apocrypha, he doesn't turn into a snake, but instead of having his wings removed, he has his garments of glory removed, right? So that represents the resurrected body, gets into multiple probations type thing, where Satan was already this exalted level being, right? And that he loses his physical form, right? There's also an idea, if you look at the book of Moses, because it's a theory I was thinking of, it's interesting. So in the book of Moses, it doesn't say that Satan turned into a snake. It said that the snake was lured away after him, that the snake followed him, or the seraph followed him, if you will, right? So what if there's this primordial Satan that fell earlier, and then he uses a seraph or an angel to mislead Eve? And that goes into the book of Enoch, where there's Satael and Azazel, two separate fallen angels. They're the leaders.
So what's the deal? Because Satan is there's actually maybe even an evil trinity. The idea of that there's Baal on one side and Baphomet on the other side is, yeah. What are the two fallen angels you used just a second ago?
Yeah, Satael and Azazel.
Satael.
Though I think Baal is very misunderstood.
Right.
I think Baal is an apostate form of Yahweh because it means Lord. He's the son of this high God, and he has this resurrection story. He was the Canaanite idea of Jesus, basically, right? That had been apostatized and corrupted, where every culture. So with the Egyptian endowment, we have Osiris, who is the son of Amun-Ra, and he's killed by his evil brother, and then he's resurrected, and the pharaoh puts on his name and does the same signs and tokens we do in the temple, and then the pharaoh is resurrected and becomes a son of Amun-Ra too, right?
Yeah.
So we have that same idea of the main son of the high god across pantheons being sacrificed, and his sacrifice allowing himself and others to resurrect. And Baal sort of plays that role in the Canaanite pantheon. Now, I don't think that El Elyon or El is from Canaan. I think he's from Israel. I think what happened, we know genetically that the Israelites are very close to the Canaanites. I think the Canaanites were the family of Abraham, that they knew who the Lord was, that they knew who Elohim was, but they sort of apostatized, and that the Lord kept with Abraham's family, that they were the true religion. So when we look at the priests of Baal versus the priests of Jehovah, and we don't know how much of that's accurate because a lot of it was by the Deuteronomists, what we see today is like Jesus versus Satan. But in reality, it's more like the true church of Jesus versus an apostatized version that doesn't have the full truth. And Jesus rooting for his people that are actually like in the covenant.
You ever notice that, like, you'll be reading, like, I'll be in a chat, like, or in an angry, like, fight online with, like, the Christianity versus Mormonism Facebook group or something like that, and it'll be like, they're like, you just are evil because, like, all you have to do is read this, and, like, they, like, show you a Bible verse, and you read it, and you're like, wow, yeah, like, this is, like, something lost in translation here because this proves my point. And they're like, no, you don't get it. Like, yeah, like, you don't know, like, the word Elohim is plural, like, everything about it, you know?
Yeah, like they'll try to say that Elohim being plural, it's the Trinity, and they worship the Trinity anciently. But historically, Elohim refers to the divine council, and the Father's called Elohim because he's the head of the divine council. So El Elyon would be more accurate for what we use Elohim for, right? The head of the divine council.
Yeah. So it's pretty funny because there's different definitions that we have for the same words.
Yeah,
and people are reading it and meaning completely different thing to each other.
Yeah, that's what I see the priests of Baal versus priests of Yahweh as, and that some of it's altered because the general scholarly consensus is that the priests of Asherah were added in later by the Deuteronomists, right? Because they just sort of show up there and they don't do anything. Speaking of Asherah, you know the 12 tribes of Israel, right? One of the sons is named Asher. You want to know what his symbol is?
What
an
is
olive
it?
tree.
Oh,
The tribe of Asher is symbolized by an olive tree, which is often associated with the tree of life.
Which one's Asher again? It's which son is he?
I don't remember. I remember like
son of
Joseph
Jacob
and Judah, and that's pretty much it.
The eighth son. Yeah, exactly. I try to remember, but you know what? Honestly, the movies help the most. If I watch like a biblical movie, I can like hold the. Sorry.
So Google symbol of Asher and pull that up.
Yeah, olive tree with a menorah in it. Spoiler alert.
Right, like it's
here though. Harold.
It's the tree of life. It's like it's not even like I don't see how that's debatable that it's an olive tree with a menorah. That's Asherah. That is Asherah, the wife of God, and that's why he's called Asher. And the Deuteronomists and people say, "Oh, Asherah was evil." It's like literally one of the tribes of Israel was named.
Oh wow, and it's two pillars too.
Yes.
Interesting.
And the menorah is the tree of life in the temple. Is Asherah. Is El Shaddai, the wife of God, the mother of the Lord. And one of the tribes of Israel was named after Asherah.
Wow. That's pretty based.
Yet, the editors of the Bible later on demonize someone who Jacob, Israel, the founder of their nation, named one of his sons after. Isn't that interesting?
The Asher Tribe of the Asher. What are their intentional duties too? It's also okay. Here we go. Here's the family tree: Asher, Hadra, Sarah. Gotcha. Sarah's the daughter of Asher. Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is pretty wild, bro. There's some pretty good stuff here. In terms of all of the connections and coincidences, there's no coincidence, but these things are coinciding pretty well. I don't want people to get like too distracted though, so maybe we should like leave it on an emphasis point.
What else? The Navajo Endowment.
Yeah.
Well, the emphasis is that the Navajo in their sweat lodges have a ritual where there is a veil over the doorway of the holy room, which represents the veil which is placed over our mind when we condescend into mortality, because we're eternal spirits. We were the sky people, as they say, before this world.
And this is the third world.
Yeah, we're in the third world, the third dimension, and we're going to ascend to the higher dimensions. And that when we die, so in their ceremonies, they get a new name, which is a password, right? Only their spouse can know their new name. And at this veil, at this covering, if you didn't see this, go back and watch it. It's important. They will have to tell this name to pass through into the presence of the holy people, who they say are their parents, the parents of their spirits. And they will pass through the veil there, and they will make an account of their life. If they were, one might say, good and faithful, right? So go check out this video if you didn't see it or didn't watch our reaction to it. It's crazy. That's literally the LDS endowment.
Right.
And as we've proven before in other videos with Dave Butler.
And this guy's not a Mormon. He's not into like, this is not a Mormon like sympathy video. Just letting you know, this guy's just straight up talking about, he just wants you to know about his Navajo beliefs. And we do too. We want you to know about Navajo beliefs, right? Yeah. But it is wild that they sync up like that. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and it's wild that they both sync up with the ancient Israelite temple rituals and the ancient Egyptian temple rituals. And it's all the same thing.
Right. Temple rituals, which have been destroyed and forbidden by Deuteronomists for literally thousands of years.
Yeah, and that goes back to a point I was making earlier that I sort of forgot about, is that the restoration, it's not a restoration of Christianity. It is a restoration of that primordial religion of Adam, a restoration of the primordial Israelite religion. Right? If you look at it in the grand scheme of things, you have this religion that's existed from Adam, and then after a long time, there is this prophesied apostasy for a little bit, and then everything is restored. Right? It's not just Christianity got off to a bad start. It's not about Christianity. It's about the religion of Israel. It's about the gathering of Israel. It's about the lost tribes of Israel. So many Christians forget about that stuff, forget about all the prophecies that the lost tribes will gather in the last days, and they think, oh, it's the Jews going back to Jerusalem or something. Like,
no,
Jews are one tribe.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. They forget about all these prophecies that haven't come true, and they look at it in such a small lens. But this is the lens of the grand religion of Adam. And Jesus Christ has always been a part of that. He's always been the focus. He was the brass serpent, right? He is the Ark of the Covenant, like Dave Butler said, with the two cherubims on it, the two angels. And then when Jesus resurrects, on his table, there's the two angels on the. Both of them would have the blood of the Lord on it. And then the Navajo, they have the same thing because they are a lost tribe of Israel. The Native Americans, we don't know how many groups migrated. We don't know what their DNA is a combination of. But within them, they are the remnants of the house of Israel. And the great peacemaker, Jesus Christ, walked among them.
I want to make sure Fast Ed, S. Lee, a few of you were paying attention and we're saying some things about your history, your culture, your tribe. And I'd love to have you reach out. You guys know you can go to, as I said earlier, tartarinova.com. That is Tartar Enova, Tartar with a Y, tartarinova.com. And you can click on the Discord link. And through the Discord, you can get into the Xirtus Discord. There's probably also a link on xirtus.com. That might have been easier. But yeah, go to the Discord, reach out to us, try to let us know about your tribe and your history. We want to know about what's going on in your lives too, you know. And like if you like the color yellow.
If you know about any ancient Native American rituals we'd be interested in, or like the lodges, let us know.
Yeah. Well, all right. I'll see you soon, Chad. And everybody, thank you for watching.